right. So let's do some quick checks and see who is here. And we're going to be going in the order that I posted in the group. So we've got Arjan, Brian, Edie, Grace, Laura, Michael, Scott. Awesome. So 7 people on here live. We're going to be going in the order that I posted in the Facebook group. So first up is going to be Scott McDougall, and then Tarquin, Vikesh, Grace, Laura, Arjan, Chris, and on as we go. So like I said, each person's going to get about 5 or 7 minutes of critique on here. We're going to get the top 3 things to keep, top 3 things to improve, and then move on to next week. First, before we start, I think it's important for everyone listening to the replay and everyone on here live to understand the purpose of these assignments. So these assignments serve 2 purposes in this mentorship context. The first and most important purpose is that you are writing a full and different piece of copy every single week. It's 2,000 words. It is a new piece of copy that you've never written for before. It's not in your niche usually. It's in something completely unheard of. That's why this week's assignment is the Bitcoin assignment. Most people have never even heard of it or don't know anything about it. So it's designed to take you out of your comfort zone. It's designed to train you in writing. It's designed to get you writing 2,000 words because a lot of people don't actually write 2,000 words, especially in a week. What it is not designed to do is be a perfect piece. It's not designed to actually go out to traffic and be sent out as something. And what I would recommend is if you plan on being a copywriter, a freelancer, or someone who sells copywriting services, freelancing services by the end of this, then I would take these assignments that you're writing right now and take the feedback that I give you every single time at the hot seat, incorporate that feedback into the piece, and then you can use these pieces as samples. That's the second thing you can use for these, because it's a sample of your copy in various different niches, and you can use them to get clients when they ask for your sample document or when they ask for how you write. So those 2 things are the most important part of these assignments. Getting the 2,000 words out, making sure that you try something new and different every single week and using that as an exercise, and then number 2, using them as samples for your copywriting career. So, or your freelance career, marketing career, whatever you want to do. That is the purpose for these assignments. I know a lot of people have asked if they can put on their own copy or if they can submit their own copy for their own business for these hot seat reviews. For the hot seat reviews, we can't do that simply because I have no idea what your target market is, what any of the big 4 answers are for your particular copy, versus I know pretty well what the big 4 is, or what the big 4 are for the assignments that I assign you, because that's what I've assigned you. So in that context, it's very difficult for me to give you a quality review in 5 minutes for anything, but it's impossible for me to actually review copy that you're going to show to clients in 5 minutes, because it's doing you a massive disservice if I actually do that. And on top of that, I also charge for full copy reviews. Yes, and Arjan says for some, and which is true for a lot of people here, the speed of writing, the quantity of writing helps people develop their processes and systems. So that's the point of this, is developing your processes and systems for writing itself. And I think that's super, super important. So that's the purpose of these, and that is why I can't grade your own assignments on here. Without further ado, we are going to jump in for Scott McDougall's assignment, and I'm going to set a timer for myself, and we're going to go for it. Edie, the order that I posted on this thread when you're doing the timestamp is going to be accurate. I just set this up, so you can stick to that order if you want. We just had one later submission that isn't on that thread. His name is Jason Maudsley. So he is the one that will not be on that thread. All right. All right, without further ado, here we go. Can everybody see my screen, and can everyone hear me? I'm guessing everyone can hear me, but welcome everyone. We've got more people as well. 12 attendees. All right, good deal. So you can see Scott's piece. All right, let's begin. All right. The best dogs deserve the royal treat. Nature's finest doggy treat keeps top dogs healthy, happy, and beautiful for years to come. But without it, they're at great risk for heart disease, skin problems, arthritis, and cognitive dysfunction. Okay, so let's talk about the headline, because the headline is where we can make the biggest improvement on this piece immediately. Given the sophistication of the marketplace, the pre-head and the headline doesn't really jump out and grasp their attention. They see it as a pure and simple marketing message. Nature's finest, all these types of buzzwords, right? Nature's finest, doggy treat, healthy, happy, and beautiful. They deserve the best, the royal treat. All those things are words that don't really mean anything to a highly sophisticated audience. They've seen them before. Other people are making the exact same claims. Nothing about them makes it your product different or jumping out to them. The difference might be that in a highly sophisticated marketplace, they are worried about these things: heart disease, skin problems, arthritis, and cognitive dysfunction. But they've also seen these things in advertisements as well. They're at risk, or, without something, they're at risk for this, or this helps with this, or, those types of claims. So you really have to jump out and grasp their attention with something they either haven't heard before, something they haven't heard to that extent before. Like they hear a promise, but then they hear your promise, and your promise is way bigger and better than the other promise, to the point where it makes the other promise irrelevant. That's what a stage 4 sophistication marketplace looks like. It's a bloodbath. There's tons of people advertising here. There's tons of money to be made, but your marketing has to stand out, and is so much more competitive than, say, a level 1 or a level 2 sophistication, because in those cases you don't have anyone, but in this case you have tons and tons of people. So this headline does not make the cut in terms of actually capturing the target market's attention for something that would be what they want. Obviously they want their dogs to be healthy, happy, and beautiful, but the headline itself doesn't grab it. But you might take a better angle with the heart disease, skin problems, arthritis, or cognitive dysfunction, or one of those specifically. Something jumping out at them like, this is, if your dog does not take this one unknown supplement, they're statistically at risk of dying 3 years earlier, or of developing, bloody paws, which is a skin problem. Like it's a very visceral skin problem, or or chewing on themselves, or massive discomfort, or something like that. Something that's going to immediately stop these people in their tracks and go, wait, what one supplement have I not heard of? Because when you're thinking about the target market here, it tends to be older women who absolutely love their dogs, and they love their dogs like a family member. They treat their dogs extremely well. All organic food, take them to the vet all the time, make sure they're super happy, that type of person. So the fear of risk to their dog's health is usually a better motivator than just their dog's happiness, although they will go for just their dog's happiness if compelled enough. So I would start with risk, but if you think you have a really good compelling headline for happiness, then I would go from there as well. Now let's move on a little bit, but that's the that's a couple things that I would improve here on the headline, pre-head, and subhead. So let's see. I believe this lead kind of does a little bit too much of the lead-in. It doesn't really grab me and pull me through. So we know you do anything to keep your four-legged family members healthy and happy. It just reads like a very like an advertisement to me. There's really no story that pulls this through. Crystal drinking bowls, ice-cold spring water, natural breed-specific food formulas, tailor-made sleeping quarters, plethora of chew toys. Like, they know all that already. It's not something that you need to tell them. It's something that doesn't capture their attention, and there's no reason for them to read through it. So I don't think that that's relevant. But when we go down here, there's a doggy treat, one doggy treat, and this might be the compelling idea, which also brings in that golden thread of pulling it through, like we talked about in the last hot seat. One doggy treat that can do all of these things, like a miracle cure or a miracle treat or something to that effect, because that's going to capture their attention to the extent of, oh, if I'm not giving my dog this treat or this type of treat, what's their health doing? That could be compelling. So you could talk about other dog foods. I've had people do this in the past where they're talking about dog food that is inadequate, and that usually pulls a really good piece. And then obviously having professional input here is very important, but it looks like, that was pretty much all there was to this. So I think the things I would keep are the ideas of this one doggy treat being a miracle cure. I think that would be a really compelling thing. Also, the idea that, if they don't take it, there's a great risk for this. And obviously having professional proof and juxtaposing it against actual dog foods that currently exist in that customer's mind, that's really important. So pulling all those things together would be important. The things that I would improve, obviously, the headline does not reach out to this stage of sophistication adequately. So I would look at the stage of sophistication you're in, which is 4 for this case, and go, what is already being said? What are they blind to? What stuff is working right now, and why is it working? And just kind of start asking those questions when something is super saturated. And then once you've made those, once you basically come up with that, then create your headline around that, create your pre-head and your subhead around that. And when you're doing your lead, don't bury this lead. I mean, your lead's kind of down here with the one doggy treat thing, but you kind of buried it underneath verbiage that doesn't need to be there. It's basically filler space in that case. So that's my advice for this one, Scott. Moving on to the next one. Let's see. Okay. Awesome. Moving on to the next one. Let me stop my timer, reset it. Did that one in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm getting better at this, guys. Usually I go on and on and on. All right, Tarquin, you are next, starting now. All right, discover how to give your purebred dog a beautiful shining coat without shedding using a little known secret ingredient. Okay, that is a very clunky headline. Discover how to give your purebred dog a beautiful shining coat without shedding using a little known secret ingredient. There's a few things that I would change about this headline. Well, quite a few. First off, as soon as you say purebred, you immediately alienate a massive, very vocal, very passionate portion of your marketplace. And that marketplace is the people who rescue dogs. So if you're a dog lover and you're an older woman who absolutely loves your dog, where your dog comes from is very important to you. A purebred owner is a very, very small subsegment of the marketplace that is kind of like elitist in the sense of, mine's purebred, I have papers, I'm AKC certified, all that kind of stuff. But there's a huge marketplace that also loves their dogs just as much, that buys them from the shelter, that might have a mutt, that might have, they have no papers, they have no idea where this dog came from. So it's going to alienate them immediately when you say purebred dog, because it doesn't appeal to a very massive segment of your already pretty well segmented marketplace, with women between the ages of 45 to 65 with they're affluent and they love dogs, they own dogs and dote upon their dogs. That's pretty specific already, versus alienating almost 80% of that audience with this one word. That's very important to make a note of. Your purebred dog with a beautiful shining coat without shedding. It's something with this. It just feels clunky to me. How to give your purebred dog a beautiful shining coat without shedding, using a little known secret ingredient. So I think I see what you're trying to go with this headline, where you're making the headline about a shiny coat, but the headline itself alienates a certain part of your audience and then gets really clunky and doesn't really deliver a powerful message that captures my attention. So it kind of fails in its job here. The best way to do this would be discover a little known supplement or a little known treat, a little known additive, a little known substance, a little known ingredient can work. I just don't like it as a word, because ingredient implies that it's like a combination of something, like it's in food or it's in something, where it's not. It's just a supplement. So finding another word for ingredient and then going discover how one little known ingredient is responsible for giving your dog shiny coats or something. You know what? I'm just going to call it and say that I don't like this headline. I think you could go at it from a different angle and say, you know, if your dog had, like, starting from a problem angle, going, if your dog has an issue with dry skin or patchy coat or, you know, excessive shedding or something like that, it's probably because they're deficient in this single ingredient. Oh, and by the way, being deficient in this vitamin or this ingredient or this substance also causes premature death in dogs. Something like that would capture way more attention, but also deliver a similar message to what you're going for, Tarquin. Not all fish oils are created equally. Okay, so this subhead is not connected to the headline, which means it's off message. If you're talking about a beautiful shining coat and a little-known secret ingredient, you reveal what the ingredient is in the subhead. That doesn't make it secret anymore. So using the word secret is one of these things in copywriting that everybody loves to do, but you have to keep it secret long enough for them to be pulled through your sales letter and then reveal what it is, versus saying, you know, this is what it is immediately in the pre-head. That means they're going to jump. Because if they don't know the argument that you're going to make, which is that not oil, you know, like fish oil is important for your dog, but it's not all created equally, and you have to get it from the right place. You're leading down this logical path that jumps around right now, when it just needs to be very clear. It needs to be, there's something missing from their diet, that this little known ingredient is missing from their diet, and not only will it will it help cure, you know, bad coat, but it will also help prevent premature death in dogs. And then you kind of go, this one ingredient is something that you really don't see put in a lot of dog foods, and the reason is because most dry dog foods don't want it in their ingredients. It helps, you know, it's too fresh, which means that it doesn't keep long enough for their particular purposes, and so nobody's putting it in the dog food, and almost every single dog is going deficient without it, and that causes these problems. You talk about those problems, and then eventually, because you're keeping it secret, you bring it up and go, here's the real thing, here's the problem with it. And then you talk about the actual fish oil and why yours is different, why your fish oil is particularly different. Now, this is also implying that you're at a lower level of awareness, like somebody doesn't really know anything about fish oil, and you got to convince them that not only is fish oil good, but you got to buy the good stuff. So if you're talking to people who already know about fish oil, then you need to lead with not a secret headline, but a specific headline regarding fish oil. Like, if you're giving your dog fish oil, you might be killing them. You need to read the special health bulletin, the special veterinary bulletin, because certain fish oils have been known to kill dogs, but if your dog does not have the vital nutrients in fish oil, they could also die an early death. Figure out the best ones for your pet. That type of headline would capture someone who's more aware, and then go from there. Does that make sense, Tarquin? Are you on here live? Not even sure if you are. No. Okay. So that's the main thing I would do here. Let's see. It took me that whole time to talk about that headline and give you feedback on there. So give me 1 second here. As a dog show competitor, okay, that's the angle you're going for. Grooming and ensuring your dog is prepped for events is time consuming. Okay, so you were obviously going with a dog show. I would lead with dog show, not purebred. If that's the angle that you're going for here. And then the coat, you also need to talk about it in the context of what your audience currently knows. If they're a competitive dog groomer or a competitive dog show owner, they're going to know about these supplements, these things like that, which means you have to hit them at a higher level of awareness, because they're going to know about fish oil. They're going to know about, you know, all the different stuff to make sure the coat is perfect, because that's how they win. And you're not going to, you know, teach them anything here if you're starting from, you know, little known secret ingredient, right? You need to start with fish oil and talk about why it's crap, or why most is crap, which is kind of like what you're going through here, but I feel like the majority of it is disjointed and does not accomplish your initial purpose, which is to capture their attention. Although I will say, going down in here, I think the sales letter itself is well put together, but the headline and the lead makes it so that they're going to bounce off, which is why we spend so much time talking about the headline and the lead. 14 years of business, we've identified 3 biggest problems. You talk about that. I would lead with problems, then talk about solutions in this particular case, and then obviously the solution you're talking about is a natural fish oil, and then you go on to pitch your actual fish oil that is the most superior of the natural fish oils. So that's how I would do this piece, Tarkin. I think I would completely rework the headline and the lead so that it makes sense, and then I would lead into problems, and then solutions, and then why your solution is the most superior. That's the best flow for a highly aware audience that is very specific. All right, moving on to the next one, Edie. All right, Vikesh, starting now. All right, do you love your dog as much as she loves you? Thousands of devoted pet parents swear by Grizzly's pure Alaskan human-grade fish oil. Fish oil is so pure, it's even kept away from air. Okay, so you're going for a purity thing, you're going for a very highly aware of fish oil thing, and you're trying to hit them emotionally by saying, do you love your dog as much as she loves you? So I can see what you're going for here, but I'm not entirely convinced that it does it with a delicate enough hand to not be annoying. If you're trying to go for an emotional play of like, do you really love your dog? The answer, of course, in their mind is 100% unequivocally yes. How dare you ask me that? Because I would die for my dog. That's the answer in this particular target market's head. So, do you love your dog as much as she loves you? Kind of tempers that a little bit, but the answer is, of course, yes. But the headline itself does not pull me into the answer to why you asked that question. Do you love your dog as much as she loves you? If you're giving your dog fish oil supplements, you may be inadvertently hurting her health. And here's why. Something like that. Because if you're going for the do you love your dog, obviously the answer is yes, but if you lead with you're doing something that you think is helping them, but it's actually hurting them style headline, that's going to immediately capture their attention. Because if you've been giving your dog a treat and you learn that that treat is responsible for heart disease, you're going to flip out and you're going to freak and you're going to want to fix that immediately versus, do you love your dog as much as she loves you? And then a very salesy headline. Thousands of devoted pet parents swear by Grizzly's pure Alaskan human fish oil. That kind of thing. Fish oil so pure it's even kept away from air. Again, it's a quote and it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't quite give me the context on purity because I don't connect purity with air. I connect air with not being bad unless I'm connecting it with fish. It's not clear to me. I think that's the biggest problem. This entire headline structure is not super clear, and it's not super well received. So, dear pet parent, for people like us, our pets are our family. Most of your decisions revolve around your dog. Hotels and holidays have to be pet friendly. Okay. Yeah, so kind of a commiseration lead here. Once again, I think that there might be opportunity here, but I don't know if it requires as much because you got to give them a reason, and this headline does not give them a reason to pull through this lead. That's the biggest thing. There is no connection between the headline and the lead. There's no connection between the pre-head and the lead, and no connection between the subhead and the lead. You're just launching into a commiseration lead and not a story lead. Which means that they're going to have to go through this whole thing while still saying, yes, 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 I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested. And then, and when, you're doing everything in your power to make sure he has none of these symptoms, that's not true. They don't do everything in their power to have specifically to attack these symptoms unless they've already had those symptoms. And so that's how you would have to tell the story. Like, my dog started getting these symptoms, and I searched high and low for the solution type of narrative. That's what I would go with this, rather than, this disjointed lead that you have going on here. Let's see. They're more than just a reminder of an aging or unhealthy dog. They're painfully frustrating conditions. Yes, that's true. But again, I've had to come through quite a bit of stuff here that may or may not compel me as a reader before I reach the stuff that that might start convincing me about these omega-3s and things like that. So so I think that when you talk about omega-3s and then you go into the, you can't give them just anything, there's not, I mean, yes, a lot of these fish oil products come from farmed salmon, but then you go down into the problem with farmed fish, and you're sort of leading them down here. So once they get past about page 3 or 4, let's see, this is page 2. So page 1, page 2, page 3. So they have to kind of get to page 4 before they get to the implication of your lead here. So I don't think that accomplishes the goal that you need to accomplish. Versus, I like that the problem with farmed fish, and so you're positioning your product as a more superior product to others for specific reasons. Both ecologically right here and also health-wise. Rancid, rusted fish oil. See, this is it right here. This is your freaking headline. If you put, are you feeding your dog rancid, rusted fish oil? That would be a showstopper headline. Because if somebody is actually giving their dog fish oil supplements, that will stop them in their tracks. And then you can start telling them the story from there. That's your lead right there. Where is it? I missed it. Anyway, that's your lead. Rancid, rusted fish oil. And this is not connected at all to the words around it yet. I mean, it doesn't lead immediately down there. The head does not separate. It's just kind of like an attention grabber, which it did grab my attention, but I think it should be your headline, because that's what a headline is supposed to do. It shouldn't be buried down here on page 5. Are you on here live, Vikesh? Nope. Okay. So those are the main things I would change. I think that your headline and your lead does not connect with what you're trying to do, although I would keep the natural flow here of farmed is bad, ours is better, and then here's why all the reasons ours is better, and then people say the same thing, so buy that. I like that flow to it, but up here, it just takes me 2 or 3 pages to get through this lead and this headline with no reason to do so. Absolutely none. There's no clear pull through, no golden thread. Okay, that's my feedback on this one. Okie doke. Let's see. Grace, you're up. Are you on here live? Maybe we'll get some live people on here at some point. Yep, she is. Sweet. Okay, so you initially told me about your process and your self-critique, which is awesome. Thank you for doing that. I put it on here just so I have some context if I see anything that I need to go up and down and look at. Down, then up emotionally, yes, and so we'll go for that. And your process for editing, yep, cool. So come up with a big idea, establish the USP, research like crazy, figure out how to make an idea. I would flip-flop these. To be perfectly honest, I would research like crazy first and then come up with the big idea. And here's why. You don't get to create the big idea for your marketplace. You have to find it. Every great copywriter says the big idea, the golden thread, the main idea is hidden inside the research, inside the marketplace. It's not something that you creatively come up with. It's hidden in it. So go do the research first, do a ton of it, and then come back and go, how do I speak to the marketplace I just looked at using the best big idea? That's going to give you a way better head start, Grace. Just regarding your process and everybody else, it should look like research first, then big idea USP. Because you don't know, until you do the research, you don't know what the big idea of the USP should be based on your marketplace. All right, let's do this. Start the review. I love this headline a lot. What would you give for a few more years with your dog? I think that that's a really hidden fear that a lot of people have. Or, it's that latent, like, you're thinking about this dog that you love so much, and yet they're going to be gone in 10 to 15 years or more or less, depending on their size. So what would you give for a few more years with your dog is a good headline to start with for the feeling. I think I might add another type of word or something to really like, hammer home the health aspects. So something like, what would you give for a few more healthy years with your dog? Or what would you give for a few more years with your dog, comma, healthy and happy and ready to play? Or something like that. I would incorporate health into this headline somewhere because using modern medicine and obviously use like we had a dog we kept alive based on because the dog was on insulin, and it was a very poor existence for that dog in my opinion. My mom kept it alive for a long time after it gotten diabetes that was obviously causing it distress, but they kept it alive on insulin for an extra year and a half or something like that. And I've had other families' dogs that kept their dogs alive using medicine for longer as well. It's not a good thing to see an animal suffer like that, even though modern medicine can keep them alive. So in my mind, as a dog lover, as a dog owner for my entire life, what would you give for a few more years with your dog does hit me emotionally, but if I incorporated the health aspect, then it would be that one extra reservation pulled out of my brain immediately. Like, yes, I want my dog to be around forever, and if not forever, then as long as possible. But I don't want them to suffer. More so than keeping them alive as long as possible, I don't want them to suffer. And so that's kind of like my primal desire versus my primal fear. That's kind of what I would be going for there. Groundbreaking research from Harvard and MIT paved the way to longer dog life. I think that's really important, talking about research immediately in the headline, especially for this audience. Imagine how you feel when the day comes your beloved dog is gone. You remember the countless hours of joy, the way he enriched your life, my months or even years. No need to just dream about the possibility. I think this hits it a little hard, Grace. Grace. I'm just going to go through the whole list of positive emotions for your name. I think that lays it on a little hard because imagine how you will feel when the day comes your beloved dog is gone. I would maybe try to tell a story that teaches the same thing. The day Bailey died was the single most traumatic day of my life. She'd been with us for 12 good years, but towards the end she had started to develop a lot of physical problems that made her life not living, and we made the extremely difficult choice to let her pass without it getting worse, or something like that. Something where the story makes sense, and then you go into and then I realized a few years later, due to groundbreaking research from the Broad Institute, Harvard University, and MIT, that there have been advances in anti-aging for dogs, and the symptoms that Bailey had were these symptoms. If only I'd known about it 3 years ago or 5 years ago, Bailey might have been around and healthy and happy for another 3 or 5 years. That's something that would be extra compelling in a story versus, hitting me over the head with the, your beloved dog is gone. Imagine how you would feel when your dog dies. No, I do not want to imagine how I would feel when my dog dies. That's not something I want to do today. So, but telling me a story that leads me into the emotion and creates the exact same reaction of, imagining that would perform the same goal without actually, hitting me over the head with it. Does that make sense, Grace? So yeah, it's a reaction. Think about, so Edie asks, why is hitting him over the head with it so bad? In this case, sometimes I say hit him over the head with it hard because sometimes you have to. It depends on the marketplace and how they receive things and things like that. But if your target market's automatic reaction is to go, no, I don't want to. I don't want to think about that. Or, imagine how you feel when the day comes your beloved dog is gone. No, I do not want to think about that, and I'm not going to keep reading this. Or something to that effect. Or I'm going to skip around. Maybe I'm going to skip your lead completely and go down to most important discovery in history for dog health. Something like that. That is what I would do. So the science and the fountain of youth for dogs, important history, Vita Dog, Dog's the most remarkable. Okay, cool. Dog aging explained. Gene expression. How does it work for your dog? At cellular level, it repairs them. For some reason, I feel like we're not talking about fish oil, though. Grace, did you... Okay, so these are conceptual images, obviously. 8 months, 7 years, 15 years, 6 months on vitamin. You know, okay, I get that. But, Grace, are you on live? Okay, yeah. I guess we'll talk about that. I mean, it's not the fish oil assignment, but we're talking about the same target market, so we can definitely grade it. But, yeah, the main thing is that I think in the very beginning, I might tell a story to pull them into the research, and then once the research starts expressing what you want, which is, you know, there's multiple areas that are affected during a dog's aging process, and here's how one supplement can help improve them all. That's a solid argument, as long as you're simultaneously pulling through the research, the teaching aspect, and the, sorry about the sirens, guys, like I said, it's LA. So you're pulling through the teaching aspect, and you're pulling through the persuasive aspect. You never want to teach too hard and then lose the persuasion. So, yeah, I think that's the feedback I have on this one. So I would work on the headline a little bit to try and show me about health. Tell me a story rather than launching into how I should feel about my dog dying. But then keep the rest of this, because the important discovery, the science fountain of youth, you know, how dogs age and why they're fixing it, all that kind of stuff is interesting to me based on the headline that I'm attracted to. So that, let's see. Yeah, okay. So I think you hit on a lot of the stuff that I would have hit on here, so I think you're accurate in your self-critique. Overall, not bad, but I you know, let's see. You could say something like that. So Dan says, could you say something like, none of us want to think about our dog passing away, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, yes, you can do that. That's another way to do it. I prefer stories because people automatically place themselves as the protagonist in a story. So if you're telling a story about yourself and they can relate to that story, then they're going to automatically start feeling the same emotions as the protagonist. It's just more visceral, and that's how people learn for the most part. But if you can't do a story, or if you're trying to do something expedient or quick, then you can say, yeah, nobody wants to think about this, nobody wants to think about that. You know, especially for more prevention style stuff, which is what this is. Cool. That's my feedback on this one, Grace. Jump in real quick. Okie doke. I didn't put the name on this one. Who's this supposed to be? Laura? Laura, this is yours. Okay. All right, Laura. The secret is in the salmon. Give your pooch healthy skin and a naturally shinier coat using this vital supplement, guaranteed to stop your dog from having dry, irritated skin and fur loss. To give you an idea how fast this works, I had a dog with severely dry skin and dry coat, so bad it made me itch if it rubbed against my skin. That showed improvement in just a week or two. And it's getting better ever since. Okay, I would make that a little more specific. Like, I had a dog with severely dry skin, and it was really bad. It showed improvement in a week, and it was gone within 2 weeks. Like that type of result. Like, if you're going to use a quote style result in the beginning, use your best, biggest marquee result. Like the best testimonial you have, throw it up there at the top, and that's essentially a third-party promise that you would normally have to make yourself in the lead. Versus not. So the secret is in the salmon. Give your pooch healthy skin and naturally shiner coat using this vital supplement. Very, very direct headline to a highly, highly aware audience. Other than, well, a very direct headline to an actually less aware audience because you don't know that they're talking about fish oil yet. So these people are going to want to give their pooch healthy skin and a naturally shinier coat, and it's guaranteed to stop your dog from having dry or irritated skin. So this would be an angle where the person would have to already have a dog suffering from dry or irritated skin or fur loss to be interested in this. And the first sentence, "the secret is in the salmon," doesn't necessarily capture my attention if that's the thing that I'm worried about. You know, like my dog has dry and irritated skin, and I'm surfing on a veterinarian website about how to cure it, and I see your banner ad on the right-hand side. And instead of "the secret is in the salmon," I could see "guaranteed to stop your dog from having dry, irritated skin and fur loss." And then I'd be like, oh, I clicked that. And then I go to your page and it says this. That could work. But you got to think about the context and what they're reading and how they're getting there. And I think that for you, this headline either is going to work pretty well or it's going to work terribly, depending on how the prospect gets to this letter. So that's very important to think about. Itching, scratching, restless. If you look at my basket, you'd think I didn't have any fur left on me. At first it was just irritating, but then it got worse. Okay, so you're talking from the dog's perspective. So let's see, didn't even enjoy. Okay. Telling it from the dog's perspective is good, but it still has to have a reason for reading, right? Like maybe something like or something like that. A story from Bailey, the Black Lab. And then reading it still has to have a reason for me to pull through here. I'm not necessarily seeing anything compelling other than the fact that I'm just hearing a dog talk about how crappy it is to have itchy skin. And then I took this thing and now I'm better. And then a bunch of testimonials. Grizzly salmon oil, human grade, talks about it like that. Healthier skin, talks about the benefits, and okay, so I think it's a little disjointed, Laura. I think the problem is the story doesn't necessarily lead directly into what you're trying to talk about with the salmon oil. And I think that the main goal is to sell them on salmon oil, but your headline implies that they don't really know that fish oil by itself is going to help cure natural skin. So you kind of have to pitch them on fish oil first, and then talk about salmon oil, and then talk about the best salmon oil. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, I think that's where this piece could improve. I think that like overall the idea is there. I like the idea of incorporating a story in the beginning because that's going to capture attention. But if the story isn't also persuasive and interesting, then they're going to bounce regardless of the fact that it's a story. So you kind of want to. We're going to have a module later in the course about storytelling that I think will kind of bring things together. But when you do tell a story, think about it from the perspective of the reader, going, okay, I'm busy, I'm interrupted, do I want to read this or not? And if so, why? That's the reaction. And for this piece, I just don't think that they're going to stop and read it. And I think that means that everything down below it is not going to work either, because they're just not going to get to it, depending on how they got to this page. So I think that's the main feedback I have for you, Laura. Yeah, that's the main feedback I have. All right, Arjan. Let's start with Arjan. Okie doke. Attention dog owners, the frequently missed ingredient in your dog's diet that could devastate their health. Okay, so this is a headline that I personally think is appropriate for this type of product. I could be wrong based on actual testing, but given how sophisticated the marketplace is and the awareness level of most people buying actual food supplements for their dogs, then this is something that would capture their attention. The frequently missing ingredient in your dog's health that could devastate their health. Devastate is a strong word, a powerful word that basically means you really need to look at this right now, because the strength of the word implies that there's going to be something bad happening if you don't do it. And then the subhead kind of answers an objection really quickly, which is even if you're using premium dog food and supplements, then that means like they still need to read this if they think they're covered because they buy the good stuff. So let's zoom in here. This is kind of hard to read, Arjan. So if you could pick a different font next time, please do. I know that this is like a Gary Halbert style courier font, but on digital it's kind of difficult to read. Your dog's diet can either heal or harm them. Hi, my name is Dr. Paul Morton. I'm a veterinarian at Boston Shelters. I would break this up so it's like, yes, it's one sentence, but given the fact that it's courier type and there's really no other additional stuff to it, I want to address the fact that many dogs' diets fail to support their health, especially if they mostly eat canned or dry food. Okay, and you might be hurting them. Reminds me of Rocky. Okay, so this lead is pretty good. Like, hi, I'm Dr. Paul Martin. I'm a veterinarian at Boston Shelters. I want to address the fact that many dogs' diets fail to support their health. And especially if they mostly eat canned or dry food. It all depends on the type and quality of nutrition. Unwilling, you might be hurting them. Stay healthy and optimal. You need essential nutrients like fatty acids. I might take out that essential nutrients like fatty acid because you're kind of playing your hand right here because you're trying to do a secret lead. But then again, you actually go right into it later. So Rocky arrived at our shelter suffering from classic omega-3 deficiency symptoms. He also tested positive for Demodex mange. Half his coat was missing. Exposed skin was scabby. Okay. So not just overweight, he was overfat and undermuscled. Cool. So yeah, I like this type of story. So they're telling the story of Rocky, and Rocky came into the shelter because he was, physically hurting, and his people wanted to put him down, but they didn't put him down. And I wanted to give him some immediate relief, so I gave him a new specific diet, and I put him on some baths and ear cleanings and antioxidants. And after 3 months, he was free of everything and completely fine, and he lost a lot of weight. So this kind of very quick storytelling is powerful because that it's going to pull the person through the story, talking about stuff that they potentially have, but talking about it in the context of an issue that is probably worse than what their pet has. Like, in addition to having skin issues, he was diagnosed with mange, with skin mites and that type of thing. So yeah, I have the same problem as you, but it's worse, is usually a really good way to frame an argument for a direct response piece of copy. And then you come down here and you say, okay, no, it's not all good though. And you pull them in. Okay. First signs of bad health. That's important too. So these headlines, I really love these headlines because they really capture my attention again. You're rebuying my attention. So the frequently missed ingredient in your dog's diet that could devastate their health, even if you're using premium dog food and supplements. This lead gives me a person to trust immediately, tells me exactly what I was expecting to hear about in the headline, which is that most diets fail to support their health, even dry food and kibble. It depends on getting essential nutrients, and this reminds me of Rocky. And then you start telling a story about Rocky, who's going through worse stuff than they are. You show pictures, and then you grab their attention again at the end of Rocky's story by saying, "Don't let them fool you. Everything is okay." You go, "Oh crap! All right, we're going here. We keep going." I like this, minimally surviving and optimally thriving is a good way to phrase things. Some people are feeding their dogs all living organic raw food diets, which is great, but it takes a lot of time. It's very expensive. Most people, it's not a practical option. And it's all been processed if it's dog food. Okay. And then the first signs of bad health also grabs my attention again, because the first signs of bad health is going to capture my attention more than, does your dog have these symptoms? Because if you're implying that when they have these things, it could get worse, I'm going to pay more attention. So that's a good thing here. Wild versus farmed, you're telling me the story about the difference here. Doesn't necessarily lead naturally into this. So first signs of bad health and then straight into the wild versus farmed argument, because we haven't really sold the idea of, oh, well, okay, yeah, right here. So maybe I would take half of this and throw it down here before wild versus farmed, because it doesn't quite make the connection. Or maybe even flip the whole thing. The first signs of bad health and then into don't let them fool you, everything is okay. Because then you can go into wild versus farmed. Otherwise, there's really not that logical flow, Arjun. And then, where are we at here? Okay. And then, yeah, you talk about the product. Excellent. Quality, big concern. Bullet points that help them do a lot of stuff. I would work on these bullet points because, improves the coat, making it soft and shiny. These bullet points could all use a lot of work, given that, inflammatory bowel disease, I don't really know what that is. Explain it to why it's bad and why it's beneficial to have it gone. Preventative against cancer, why, how, use these bullets to really describe and use powerful, punchy language that's going to, basically build the desire for this product in my head every single time I read one of them, versus just, help slow cancer growth, preventative against cancer, fights heart disease. Those are not, they're good, but they're not compelling. And I think these bullets could be much, much more compelling. So, yeah, I think that's accurate there. Fast results, lots of testimonials, end of the year, limited time offer, excellent. Grizzly's promise, you have 2 choices. Okay. Overall, I think this is a pretty good piece. Like I said, going through with a fine-tooth comb, rearranging some of the things, reworking the lead to make sure it's not too overly verbose, going through some extra editing, pulling this through to make sure that there's no disjointed arguments throughout the entire thing. But other than that, I think you did a really good job with this one, Arjun. Yeah, there's definitely things we can improve on this one, but you did a pretty good job. Okay, nice job, Arjun. All right, stop, reset. Moving on to Chris Wright. Chris Wright with the Jessica Biel and East the Bulldog image to capture attention. Attention dog owners, which of these 6 reasons do you love your dog the most? An open letter to women who say they love their dog more than anything in the world. I don't like the headline. Which of these 6 reasons do you love your dog the most doesn't make sense at all. I might just delete it and put an open letter to women who say they love their dog more than anything in the world, and then I might emphasize say. Like that. An open letter to women who say they love their dog more than anything in the world, because you're now challenging them. You delete this because this doesn't make sense. And then now you're challenging them. So you kind of have to build that into your whole piece if you're going to challenge them. Unless you're not trying to challenge them, in which case I don't know if this headline is the right choice. An open letter to women who say they love their dog more than anything in the world. I would just say who love their dog more than anything in the world. Because when you add this right here, it makes it challenging. Because you're implying that they're just saying it, they're not really doing it. That's kind of the implication with that. So if you consider your dog a real member of the family, I have exciting news for you. I didn't start my thing, so you get an extra minute. New scientific studies have shown that pets really are part of the family. In fact, scientists have discovered that just making eye contact with the dog boosts the feel-good chemical oxytocin in your brain. That's true. Cool. Okay. Why is your dog special? 6 reasons. What's true for you? Not a chef. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I was looking for the transition here because we're still selling fish oil, but by the end of page 2, I'm not hearing anything about it in a very sophisticated marketplace. But if you're trying to write this in more of like a BuzzFeed style advertorial, I can see how this might work. But you got to make the transition properly in an advertorial style piece. So I'm going to look and see they're not just dogs, low quality treatment. Okay. All right, I kind of see what you're doing here. So at first I wasn't clear on how you were trying to write this. And I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary. But as I see what you're trying to do here, I think this might actually work better than I thought originally. Because you're basically selling them on the fact that they're not just dogs and that they're equivalent to people. That's kind of the argument here. And then you go into the, if they're equivalent to people, then are you treating their nutrition the right way? Like, you think about your own diet, are you thinking about their diet type deal? Is that kind of what you were going for, Chris? Are you on live? No, you are not. Oh, yes, you are. Is that what you were going for, Chris? Mike, check. Checking your attention. All right, I'm going to move on because you're not answering quickly enough. So if that's what you were going for, good job. If that's not what you were going for, then you did it on accident, and that's okay. But just understand that what you did was risky, but I think it pulled together here because it doesn't feel disjointed or messed up or all over the place. Let's see. You also wrote a ton, 3,000 words. The biggest factor in your dog's control is your nutrition. Yes, all right. We're 100% committed to, okay, so you played your hand here. Like up until this point here, I would have even argued that this wasn't a sales piece. Up until right here. And then you drop that this is totally a sales piece, like hardcore. And then you go straight into the pitch. So I think that might be a little bit too much. Like no pitch, dogs are humans. This is the type of advertorial style we're going with, and then going immediately into the, hi, I'm from so-and-so Acme company, buy our shit. I think that was probably done too quickly. Because now you're talking about omega-3s and it doesn't transition very well to what you were talking about. Like, nobody starts reading this article because they care about omega-3s. They care about their dog, but they don't care about omega-3s, which means that they have to transition their love of their dog into omega-3 supplements, and that's just not how this works. I don't think this paragraph here makes that transition properly, which means that everything below here is going to get bounced, and they're not even going to see it. So I would say factory, not plant, because in that particular headline, it just, oil is extracted in a plant. I would think you're extracting oil from a plant, not an actual plant, like a factory or an industrial place. But again, like I said, that transition kind of kills it. Because now, they're like, oh, that was a sales piece. Well, bounce. Versus, oh yeah, I definitely want to buy omega-3 oil today for some reason. There's no connection there. Does that make sense, Chris? Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely hack the first couple pages off and get a new lead if you wanted a direct sales piece. Um, you could basically start here with a headline. Omega-3 fatty acids are the new way to give your dog long-lasting health. That's a decent headline. I think it's not sophisticated enough for this marketplace, but it's a decent headline. So, omega-3 fatty acids are the new way to give your dog extra years to their life, healthy years to their life, that sort of thing, like we were talking about with Grace's headline. That's what I think. But yeah, and then you obviously go in and explain the product extremely well. I like how you've formatted it. It makes it easier to read. You've got multiple calls to action. You've got a lot of the objections that might be raised, like the smell, the taste, no heavy metals, no oily spoons. Let's see, and then like I said, multiple calls to action. Don't let your dog down. Kind of like an end of the letter type push here. So I really like the letter as is, but I think the direction you chose with it means that it either needs to be a sales letter or it needs to be a advertorial style piece, but it can't be both because the transition didn't work well. The transition, like where you tried to make the transition, was the right place to make it, but it just didn't work because there's no connection between like this paragraph of how you can do the most for your dog, and then this paragraph here, dog's nutrition, doesn't necessarily transition my thought process from the need for, like I love my dog and everybody else, loves their dog, and so dogs are people idea into the I need to buy omega-3s for my dog. It's too much of a logical jump here that doesn't get enough attention. Does that make sense, Chris? But this is where I would do it, where you try to do it here. Awesome. All right, that's the feedback I have. Give this one extra. But overall, well done. Thank you for doing extra work too. I think the piece was strong. It just, that transition kind of killed both options of it. Good piece though. Good strong first draft, which is what we're going for here. Strong first draft, and we could definitely work with that idea moving forward if we were actually working on this piece over time. All right, Brian Mead. Let's get started on Brian. So let's see, about an hour in. Cool. All right, after I got home from work, I thought I was going crazy because my dog spoke to me, and what I did next is what any true dog lover would do. Okay. Let's see. I don't know how I feel about this headline. Let me keep reading this real quick. Let's see. Crazy dog, running around. Contagious, how's your day? Did you miss me? She spoke back. Wasn't surprised. I might have been going crazy before this moment. Yep, go older. Okay. Okay. Alaskan sled dogs, interesting. And okay. All right, Chris, I see what you did here, and I like it. So and the reviews and talking about it. Yeah, I think this works. So after I got home from work, I thought I was going crazy because my dog spoke to me, and what I did next is what any true dog lover would do. I think you might have played your hand with the sales piece because you're obviously going for like a secret lead where they really have no idea what you're going to write about. You're only appealing to the target market. So the subhead, when you say what I did next is what any true dog lover would do, sounds a little advertising-ish. You've got a little marketing language in there. So if you're going for a secret lead, you kind of played your hand with the subhead because they're going to probably know it's an advertisement. But then you go into your thing, and you don't actually ever say that it was talking to you like in the movie Up, but you go on to explain that dogs have their own language, and then you kind of like you explain that in the context of some symptoms that they can have. And she spoke, I researched, I found something, and then I found another story for you to pay attention to, and that recaptures my attention. So I think that this works. In this case, when people try things like this, like not just you, Brian, but when other people try things like this, then it's going to be a question of, okay, it's out there. There's really no way for me to tell whether or not this is going to actually work to the marketplace until we run it and try it. I think that you hit the point where it's interesting enough that I might be interested. It's not too crazy that I'm going to bounce immediately. You played your hand with the marketing and the subhead, which means I might get some bounces because I know it's a marketing piece and I don't want to read it. But if we reworked this in some way, I'd have to do like actually thinking about how to rework that. But like even clickbaity, like what I did next is what I did next is the real surprise or something like that. Like keeping it the clickbaity secret style headline that it is, and then going into the story, then going into the Alaska story, and then once you finish with the Alaska story, you're kind of starting into the pitch a little bit. And telling them about how grizzly salmon oil does what it's supposed to do based on what they just learned. Yeah, I think that this overall is structured properly. Healthier, more shiny skin, not oily. It's a bad word to use. Because oily is commonly referred to as bad versus good. Have a strong, healthy, lubricated joints. That's awesome. Healthy immune system, good. Stay in great shape. Feeling more nourished. Free shipping, sweet, limited supply. Okay. To a poor salmon harvest in Alaska. Interesting. Okay, urgency built in. Last time this winter, you can grab some. I like the urgency. Winter's the hardest time for dogs. More urgency. I like it. Don't let your dog lie to you anymore. They usually hide their signs of joint pain. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Overall, I like this. This is also a good piece. Good job, Brian. Just kind of take into account what I said about it. That if you're going to do a secret style lead, you don't want to play your hand in the beginning, and then you obviously made the stories interesting enough to keep pulling through. So, not bad. Next one, I think it's Michael Wyckoff. Nope, Miri? Why is Michael not up there? That's Michael. Oh, okay. All right, we'll do Miri's first and then Michael, just because it's up, and I don't want to rearrange things because that fucks it all up. Messes it up. Sorry, cursing. All right, let's do this. Mary, a worried family, a poor dog, and our journey to happiness. We were desperate. We needed to find out why Sully was losing his hair. Okay, my attention is there. Poor baby, my 11-year-old. Okay. Okay. When we get older, human beings, dogs, all living things, the vet told me to wait and see what happens. Could be seasonal allergy, overwhelm, jump to conclusions. I listened to the vet, so I still didn't get well. Okay. Um, okay. Um, all right. So I like what you're going with this angle. Like my dog had a problem, the vet couldn't fix it. I had to do my own research. Like that type of storyline is awesome. I think that the way that you wrote it, and when I'm reading it to myself in my head, um, could be presented better in terms of how it's written. Maybe more personable rather than more narrative. Uh, a lot of people, when they try and write stories like they read in fiction. And fiction is written at a very high reading level for most people. So I would focus on telling a story as if you're sitting next to someone and not as if you're writing it to them. Because the language and the pacing and the formatting and everything that you use to write it in is going to be very different than when you speak to someone. Because just do this, actually, and everyone can do this just to get an idea. Go look at some transcripts, some raw transcripts of a conversation that someone had, like on a podcast or a YouTube video. Go look at those transcripts and then listen to the video. And when you read the transcripts, you're going to realize just how disjointed our actual verbal conversations are. Like how often we mess up, how often we pause, how often we move around and use different words and use words out of context. And so when you're speaking to someone, you communicate very differently than when you're writing to someone. But sales copy needs to sound like a conversation, not necessarily a narrative. Especially nowadays, you want it to sound very natural, very personable, and have a very clear, almost verbal style to it. Simply because that's what people pick up on. It's easier to read. It's a lower reading level, and if they're not having a really, really compelling reason to read the narrative for some reason, then they're not going to waste the time of their day to read it. So with this case, I like the angle that you took with it. I think it's the proper angle to go with, but I don't think it was executed on very well in terms of how you were writing it. Does that make sense, Miri? Are you still on? Nope, not on. All right. Yeah, not. Brian's like, I'm excited. It's not bad. Like, guys, it's not always bad. Sometimes you write really good stuff, and you will continue to get better and better throughout this mentorship course. These are I'm telling you to do things that are positive and work on things that are negative, and we're going to get way better by the end of this thing. So yeah, I'll also, Miri, you improved from last time, but I still see a ton of brick text when you're writing here. So think about it conversationally. Think about it how you're going to write it to someone if you were actually talking to them. That's the best advice I can give you for your writing right now. So that's my feedback here, and I love the idea. So continue to use that. I think it's really it's a really strong narrative to go. My dog was having issues. The vet didn't know what to do. I went out and found them on my own. This is how the journey of my finding them. And then, I finally found one that actually worked, and here's what it does, and here's why it's super awesome. Here's why you shouldn't buy anything else, and here's why you should buy it right now. I think that's really good. So I love that. I just think that you need to write this in a more conversational way and get rid of the brick text. I really do not like the brick text at all. So that's my feedback on that one, Miri. Cool. Chris Huntley. Attention dog owners, 3,971 humans trust this fish oil. Should you? The story I'm about to tell you is true. I enrolled in a marketing course where I had to study various fish oil brands for dogs. let's make one thing here. I'm a massive skeptic when it comes to any sort of supplements, but I'm also a dog owner. I should say more of a dog parent than a dog owner. At any moment, I've got 100 recent pictures of my yellow lab and golden retriever on my phone. They're like children to me. Okay. Needless to say, I was excited. I learned about fish oils. I was shocked when I was found. Okay, so really awesome results. And after reading a dozen testimonials from various fish oil products, I simply couldn't believe all the areas. Okay, cool. I like the angle that you took with this. I want to come back to the headline, but I want to see what you're writing with it. Because I like the angle of being a massive skeptic, especially for a highly sophisticated audience. That's good. But also saying that you're a dog owner and dog parent, commiserating with them in that way, but you're telling your story. And then I found this thing, a ton of great results. So you're basically saying, you know, someone who's never really heard of fish oil or doesn't really know much about it, for dogs especially, you're coming at it from that angle, and I think that's appropriate. However, this, in my opinion, this headline could be different because 3,971 humans is not that many. It's not something that, you know, like 100,000 or 1,000,000 or, you know, something or like these authority sources, that sort of thing. Like, or if you wanted to use 3,970, you could say something like this fish oil has 10 times more positive reviews than its leading competitor on Amazon, or something like that. You need to frame the number so that it makes sense, because otherwise it just looks like a small number on its own that has no context. That's the first piece that I would do here. I like the flow to this. They're talking about the benefits. It helps with a bunch of other stuff. And then we finally get down to the thing, 3,000 5-star reviews. Let's see, has really dry skin, well manicured and groomed, dog owners. All right. Okay, and so you're kind of like framing it so that you want only dog lovers, not dog owners, all right? If you think a dog owner leaves meaning a bowl of food and water out for Fido in the morning, your job is done. You're not wanted here. Okay, cool. I like that. I think that the people that you want to sell to are going to all respond positively to that. Then how can it do so much? Okay, cool. Now again, we're pitching the product itself. I don't know if that's going to be redundant based on what you just talked about. I would have to go looking deeper. But the other thing is, here we go. So this is the main like difference maker, but you only devote a number to it. Especially as a skeptic, like you framed yourself as a skeptic. So I would bring up other brands from the skeptic mindset and say, look, you know, when I was doing this research for my marketing project, and I might do like a marketing course at graduate school, or you know, something like that. Maybe something that's a little more appealing to the mass market rather than just an online course. But I recently enrolled in a marketing degree or an MBA. You know, something like that would be a better authority and give you another reason. But then you take the massive skeptic angle and you go like, look, I had to research a bunch of these, and I'm a dog lover myself, and so I was, you know, I had an interest in it. But I went out and looked, and I found that there was only one brand that really had everything you would possibly need to actually make a good supplement, and that was this. All the other brands were farmed salmon. They had a ton of mercury in them. They had fish parts rather than fish fillets. Like there's terrible quality. And coming at it from the angle of a skeptic, you're helping them overcome their objections as well. But I don't see that anywhere in here, and so I would most definitely include that into a rewrite, because you want to juxtapose your product against other products, because at the end of the day, your product is probably not the cheapest product. So you have to maintain that this is a higher quality, and honestly, you'd be hurting your dogs if you did not. And I'm not sure if this, yeah. I'm not sure if this is even necessary at all. A dog parent, with fish oil and all that kind of stuff. Maybe, but I'm not sure that this is entirely necessary at all for this piece, Chris. Boom, like that. I would just close, maybe a couple more calls to action, juxtapose it against a bunch of other options, and then go from there. That's my feedback on this one, Chris. See you later, Arjan. You have any questions on that, Chris? No questions? Sweet. Yep. All right, cool. All right. John Patrick Roddy. Wait, what's going on? I'm skipping down these. I think it's because it's taking me through the Word documents rather than the things I put in order. That's frustrating. Sorry, guys. So these are now out of order, and I need to see if I can do this. Hold on one sec. It didn't get closed, Michael. I think I just realized what happened. Okay, so I'm going to start marking these off. We got Scott, we got Tarquin, we got Vikesh, we got Grace, we got Laura, we got Arjan, we got Chris, we got Brian, we got Miri, and we just did Chris Huntley's. So let's do yours now, Michael, and then we're going to go find Brittany's, which I can see on the left as a Google Doc, and then we're going to jump back into Word documents, I think. So this is the problem with Mac's insistent compartmentalization versus using the thing that I originally planned out. All right, let's start with Michael. So, Michael finally revealed the little-known Alaskan secret to your dog's health and happiness. Dear dog lover, if you do anything for your pooch, you need to stop what you're doing and read this letter immediately, okay? Because I'm about to reveal a groundbreaking scientific discovery that changed pets' lives all around the world. Okay, so your hook is groundbreaking scientific discovery. You are claiming little-known Alaskan secret to your dog's health and happiness. And you're asking them to immediately stop what they're doing. So depending on the context of this message, this could seem overly aggressive and cause a bounce. This headline doesn't necessarily give me a reason to stop. Health and happiness is important, yes, but not in the hustle and bustle of my daily life. So, I'm reading this on my phone, I'm reading this at work, I'm reading this when I come home from work. The little-known Alaskan secret to my dog's health and happiness isn't as important as like a notification on Facebook or something like that, because yes, I care about my dog's health and happiness. What I really care about is my dog's immediate health, my dog's immediate concerns if they have any problems, and the Alaskan secret doesn't really compel me to want to read about it at all, simply because Alaska for a lot of people just isn't super exotic. It doesn't have any sort of like power to it versus like Thailand or like some sort of actual exotic place that may stop someone, or like the Amazonian jungle. But it has to be way more specific if you're going to compete in this kind of sophisticated marketplace. So I would change the headline to be much more specific to a problem or to a specific outcome that you're trying to pitch the person on. So the little-known Alaskan secret to curing a dog's itchy coat, the little-known Alaskan secret to curing an older dog's arthritis, something like that would stop someone versus health and happiness. So that's the first piece of advice I would have. This, again, might be fairly aggressive depending on where it is. it worked a lot in classical sales letters, but right now people have seen it a lot. So the stop what you're doing thing is not necessarily as powerful as it used to be. And groundbreaking scientific discovery means that you're going to have to fulfill on this promise at some point. So is it truly groundbreaking? Maybe, right? I know from the research that, you know, dogs taking fish oil is good for them, just like it's good for people, but I wouldn't necessarily call it groundbreaking. So let's see. It's going to help improve them no matter what. I like these promises. And then this might be a good reason to keep reading. So a little bit about my dog Sparky, why he ended up in the hospital just inches from a painful death, and even more importantly, the little-known secret that saved his life and made him healthier than a purebred racehorse. So, okay, that might have been your headline. The story of Sparky, how he, my dog Sparky, why he ended up in the hospital just inches from painful death, and even more importantly, the little-known secret that saved his life and made him healthier than a purebred racehorse. So, yeah, potentially another headline option. Saved his life is more compelling than health and happiness. That's why I say that. Most terrifying day of my life. Let's see, yes. He didn't come with me. What do we do with the dog while we're away? All right, yep. So my girlfriend Beth, Beth's name on the caller ID. Unconscious, okay. All right, yep. All right, okay. So very visceral, emotional story that pulls me through the lead. I think that this is actually a very powerful story because you want to know what happens to the dog. A minor heart attack. Interesting. He survived. Explain that Sparky's breed runs into some pretty awful issues around this time in their lives, unless they're doing this. Okay, so that's powerful. Yep, they become susceptible due to their age. Okay, needed to add fish oil, and then you start talking about why fish oil is important, and we tried them, but Sparky hated them all. Made a mess, fail for this big reason, fish oil. So you've done everything right technically beyond the headline in this lead here. So I think that that's the primary place where we could improve this. Give me a really strong reason to pay attention to the headline immediately, and then launch into your promises, and maybe turn these promises into, like, I don't know, I'm going to make something up, but I'm going to call them like Carlton bullets, because I know that John Carlton likes to put bullets in the beginning of his sales letters to talk about what he's going to talk about, and then go into the story that you're going to teach them, and then, you know, kind of go from there. This, again, could also be your headline, but technically, this is how I would write the sales letter beyond this point. So I think the work that needs to be done is on the lead and the headline, but once it gets there, the story pulls me through all the way, puts me directly into the frame of mind I need to hear about fish oil and supplements, because you gave me a really good, compelling reason for wanting to believe in them, given that the dog had a heart attack and the vet said that they do that around this age. That's a very easy, clear thing for me to understand. And then you start talking about the actual product, going into what the customers have to say, and then talking about different options like that. I think overall, well done. The work that we would need to do is on the lead and the headline. Make sense? Cool. All right. Now, that was Michael. Now let's do Brittany. Brittany Johnson. The powerful superfood that will leave your dog feeling rewarded after every meal. How to improve your companion's quality of life in dog years. I kind of like both of those headlines and subheads, now that I think about it. The powerful superfood that will leave your dog feeling rewarded after every meal. How to improve your companion's quality of life in dog years. Maybe the subhead could be reworked to make a little bit more sense. But overall, I think that this is a straightforward, strong headline that is going to appeal to someone who is interested in the, in superfoods for their dogs. Basically, if someone has a pre-existing interest in supplements and superfoods for their dogs, they're going to read this headline and continue reading to the first sentence. Walking through the aisles of dog food in the pet store can be dizzying. Fluorescent lights, bright sales tags, occasional child. Okay. So, okay, I don't think you need this right here. I think you can immediately go to, take the what and say most people don't realize that nearly all of the dog food in the store is missing very important nutrients. That first sentence is going to lead me into reading more because your headline says the powerful superfood that will leave your dog feeling rewarded after every meal. If the next thing I read is most people don't realize that almost all dog foods are missing very important nutrients, even the premium ones, like that's going to capture my attention and continue to make me read here. And then you start the questions, but how do you know what your dog needs? What's the best diet for your companion? There are too many conflicting theories floating around, so let's take it back to simplicity. All right, now you've got my attention, you're pulling me through. Doctors have found that inflammation is the root of all disease. Okay, prove that. Prove it. Prove, 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 proof, proof. Don't just make a statement like that, prove it. But what if there was a supplement that could curb inflammation in its tracks and reverse it, soothe the digestive tract, benefit brain health, regulate the immune system, lower blood pressure, improve their health, and promote weight loss? Okay, cool. That's not necessary either, but when you do, the supplement widely used not only for pets but also their humans. Can't guarantee these results. All right, I'd be careful with guarantees, just in general. Just pretty much in general, don't make guarantees. It's way easier in the dog market because you're not beholden to any sort of like FDA regulations. So keep that in mind when writing these pieces for dog supplements or animal supplements in general. I think this is written in a very clear, like conversational way, which is good, but I don't think it includes enough proof or objection handling elements in it to really make me believe everything you're saying. And then, okay, obviously there was kind of a, we didn't quite make it to the end. But with that said, the idea is there. I like the headline. It's super direct. I would talk specifically about food immediately, right here, and then start going into the question, what if? How do you know your dog's needs? All that kind of stuff. But the stuff I would improve upon is more proof for your statements, more explanation for your statements, similar to what Michael just did and how he explained things. It doesn't necessarily have to be scientific. It just has to be relevant. So relevant with authority type, concepts there, like my veterinarian said this, or I read in the veterinarian website, whatever it happens to be, like ASPCA or something like that. Those places are automatic authority triggers in people's minds that basically make them believe whatever you're saying without them having to go and research it unless they're that type of person, which there are. There are people who buy like that. That's my feedback on this piece, Brittany. You still here? You are here. Cool, cool. Does that make sense, Brittany? Do you have any questions on that? Okay. All right, good deal. Cool. All right, check off Brittany. Now let's do Daniel. Dan Lutgada. Let's do this. Okay. All right. And thank you for putting these in there. I like when you guys self-critique your letters. It's a talent that you have to start to cultivate, because at the end of 10 weeks I'm not going to be creating your stuff or looking at your stuff anymore. So creating that idea of self critique is going to be very, very powerful for everyone here. A lot of copywriters do not do that, and it really screws them up. Is your dog's diet missing this vital nutrient? If so, you may be jeopardizing their health. Again, a headline that I really like for this particular type of offer. So that's a good direct headline. I like it. And then you go into, hi, I'm Jan. I'm a dog lover. My best friend is a Labrador Retriever named Buddy. Cool. Stealing my shoes, hiding them, car drives, long walks. Okay. Jan, actually, not Jan. Jan, or Jane, or something like that. Okay. I think the lead might have been a little too long, but it did kind of tell the story about Buddy. I need more of a story about Buddy, not necessarily just description of Buddy. Description is fine a little bit, but then I want to have some sort of connection to Buddy as a reader. Not as his favorite activities include stealing shoes, which is endearing. But the other part of this is that if I keep reading this and I keep seeing the same things and there's no story, there's really no reason for me to continue reading. Like, you're talking about yourself or you're talking about Buddy with no story to drag me along. So that's one thing that I would improve upon. All right, something I neglected, missing from his diet. I still feel guilty about it. Okay. So we need to stop. Yep. Capsules. So it's more complicated than that. Okay, so you're kind of narrating your thought process here, but not in. There's a little bit of a story here, but not nearly as clear and concise as what Michael was writing about. Do you see the difference in your writing versus the way that Michael was explaining his story? Because when I'm talking about pulling people through the narrative and giving reasons for belief, Michael did a really good job of doing that once we got past his lead. Versus right here, it's not quite the same type of narrative that pulls people through. Is that starting to make sense, Stan? Like, you can see the differences? Okay, good. So I won't go into too much detail on that as long as you can see the difference. When in search for a better alternative, but again, the flow is the same. I love my dog and I'm very connected with my dog, but I found out that he wasn't healthy. And so, we tried different things. The vet assured me that not many people know about it, but I still feel guilty. The different things didn't work. And, then I tried some weird stuff, and then I went to the alternative, and the alternative worked better, and here's why. So that's kind of like a big miss right there. No. One sec. I have dogs too, and I think they're whining for some reason, so give me a second. Okay, so what you must know before purchasing any, that's important. These are good headlines. They can effectively process certain types. Okay, good. The differences, critical balances. So starting to actually tell the story about what it is, but then once we get to this point, your narrative shuts down because you're obviously teaching something here, but it shifts from you telling a story about you and Buddy versus you kind of teaching about all of this stuff, and there's really no transition from you being kind of like new to this thing to you automatically starting to teach what is actually pretty complex stuff, right? There's really no connection there. Yeah, punch in the gut story. Yeah, Chris Haddad is good stuff. Yeah, maybe they need some salmon oil to make them happy. Let's see. So beware what makes theirs different, how it can help your dog. Ship straight to your door at a discount. I like the offer. Cover the cost, money back, close, Q&A. Okay, so yeah, the stack is good. Maybe more calls to action in the stack, the offer stack. When I say the stack, I mean the offer stack, which is basically as soon as you introduce the product and you start trying to justify the price and getting people to buy, that's the offer stack. So, but like I said, I think the transition from you talking about Buddy to you explaining this very detailed product doesn't necessarily make the right shift either, and so I think that transition needs to be done better. But overall, I think that this was a solidly theorized piece that could be really, really cleaned up. Like it's not like totally scrap worthy, but it's something that we can take the basic idea from and rework dozens of times, and then finally come up with a piece that really resonates using the same framework. So it's not a total throwaway. Yeah. So if I would introduce an expert, you can introduce an expert to start explaining things if you want to, like his vet or the person that owns Grizzly Oil or something like that. Introducing an expert allows you to shift into a more technical explanation. Saying that, I did a ton of research and here's what I found also allows it, because that means that you're the same character, but you're introducing an expertise that you haven't justified previously in the sales letter. And those are two main options. So introducing an expert, or kind of saying that you did a bunch of research and here's what your findings were. So becoming a reporter rather than a storyteller. Those are two options to do it. But it is difficult if you don't automatically start with that. So you're still going to have to kind of make a narrative transition in the middle of your copy that can be jolting for a lot of people reading it. It kind of turns off the grease slide a little bit. So when you do it, when you write a letter, try to start with the amount of authority you need to explain something if it's going to be complex. All right, that's the feedback I have there. Cool. All right, now Daniel Sanchez, I don't know if you're on here live, Daniel, but thank you for submitting the assignment. I know that you were working on it, but I'm not going to review the any older assignments on newer hot seats. Just takes away from it. So for this next one, instead of working on assignment 2, work on assignment 3 and submit assignment 3 by Friday so that I can grade it on the hot seat. Okay, Daniel? Got that? Roger that. Cool. John, Patrick, Roddy, let's do this. The secret to making your dog's coat healthy and shiny, even supermodels will be jealous. Why listening to what your dog tells you is the smart way to help determine your personal source of omega-3s. I don't like either of those headlines for anything. Supermodels does not make sense in connection with dog hair. And listening to your dog doesn't make any sense in the context of source of omega-3s. There's no relevance whatsoever to omega-3s, fish oils, salmon oils, or anything in the headline that would draw my attention. And then you go directly into a story about Abby. So I don't think that the connection was made whatsoever with this. The meme is funny. It does capture my attention. So pictures really are worth 1,000 words. So if you can put a picture at the top of your sales letter to capture someone's attention at the same time that you put a headline that's supposed to capture their attention and their interest and their intrigue, then do that, because it helps. Images help. But in this case, I don't think it helps because there's no connection whatsoever from the image to the headline or the subhead, and then there is a connection to the image, and apparently the story that you're about to go into, but just reading this first page doesn't make any sense to me. So I was sticking my tongue out at her. So this story's kind of funny, actually. So like if we ignore this, the headline, and we start from the image and go, hi, my name's Abby with a pink tongue. My mom, I was sticking my tongue out at my mom, and she took a picture, which is something that all dog parents do. I have lots of pictures of my dogs doing silly stuff. Not a very happy camper. My skin was driving me crazy. I felt itchy all over. I developed hot spots. I was comfortable in pain. I was fed up. I didn't know what to do. So mom took me down, looked down at me on the kitchen floor, and what's wrong, Abby? Stuck out my tongue at her, and got ready. So your dog is always talking to you. Okay. Took me to the vet. Changing my diet. Tried new food. It got worse. The doggy park, lots of energy. I didn't feel like playing. Okay, a dialogue between April and Abby. No, I'm sorry, April and what's her name? I already forgot her name. Virginia. April and Virginia. And okay, so the story did pull me through, and now I got to the actual headline. It reads a little bit like an infomercial once we get down to April and Virginia talking to each other, but that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as the narrative makes sense. And so, yeah, I think that then you start talking about the salmon oil itself. Okay, so the story is good. It brings me into the actual piece here. And Mother Nature's miracle food that makes your dog's hair look young again just seconds a day. Cool. And then you start talking about the product. 2 paws up. Okay, so it's a very like light piece. And it doesn't necessarily sell the crap out of the salmon oil, but then you start hitting with a couple other things that mean business, like never buy farm raised, and flaxseed doesn't work, and most salmon oil is not good for your dog. Like a lot of those things that capture attention once they've pulled through this. So I think this is fairly decent, John, because it kind of hits all the bullets, but I think we need to put it together in a slightly more clear way, and I think the story kind of drags a little bit. But rave. I think rave is the word you want. Rave? Buddy, Rasha. Okay. Yeah, overall, this is a pretty good piece. I think the story needs to flow a little bit better and make a little bit more sense. The headline and the subhead did not work whatsoever, and so those need to be either rethought or scrapped completely. And the fact that you told the story from Abby's perspective, but then started giving me hard-hitting stuff on why I need to focus on wild-caught salmon oil, I think is powerful. So those are some good and some bad. Does that make sense? I think John Roddy's on. Does that all make sense for that feedback, John? Let me know. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, cool. Nope. Good to go. Right. Might be able to keep it under 2 hours this time. We'll see. Probably not. All right. Next up is Cisco Arachi. Cisco, I think, yeah, you were an ODT, so this is yours right here. So, Cisco, let's talk about yours. Is your dog nutrition healthy? That doesn't make sense. New vitamin formula add years to your dog's life. Okay, so it's adds years, not add. Next few minutes, I'll show you how to keep them safe and healthy from the inside out. The main headline, new vitamin formula adds years to your dog's life, is a compelling enough headline, but then your subhead needs to give me a specific reason for sticking around. Like, in the next few minutes, I'll show you how a controversial or a little known or a any one of those words, maybe something even like misunderstood supplement, or maybe something like, in the next few minutes I'll show you how a supplement you might already be giving your dog could be harming them if it's the wrong type, or something like that. That could capture more attention than just safe and healthy from the inside out. These are filler words that don't mean anything to anyone. So let's see. Talking about Bella. Okay. All right, this is important, yeah, because so if you put in your subhead like the stuff you might be giving your dog is hurting her, and then you come down here and you're actually talking about it, like tablets depleting your vitamin E. Also, you want to stay in the realm of believability with these stories. So if Bella goes to the vet with muscle weakness so badly that she can barely move, that's probably going to be something much, much worse than, simply a vitamin deficiency, unless she is 100% deficient in a vitamin, and because of that she can't move. But usually that doesn't happen. Usually it's a factor of, it's a factor of some sort of illness compounding a vitamin thing, or she's got some sort of lesser symptom that's really bugging her, like dry skin or joints or lethargy or something like that. So it's got to be within the realm of believability for you to tell this story. Never go outside the realm of believability, which is really hard if you're making up a story. So my advice would be to try to never make up a story, tell a real story, and if you can't tell a real story, go find a real story from someone. Like, talk to people who've used fish oil for their dogs and why they started using it and that sort of thing, so you know what the reality is versus trying to make one up. Made-up stories sound made up. At least it sounds made up to me. So if it's real, it sounds made up, and I think it needs to be like in the copy where you're basically saying, hey, this might sound unreal, but it really did happen to me. And it could happen to a lot of dogs that have this this imbalance or whatever. So that needs to be in the copy if it's not there. So I'm going to go through, is she really healthy? Fish oil. I almost killed Bella with fish oil. That could be a headline. Honestly, like I was saying, instead of this positive headline and you want to capture someone's attention, use this one. I almost killed my dog with fish oil. If somebody's giving their dog fish oil supplements already, that's going to stop them and immediately make them read. So it can cause that. And then you start telling the bad stuff about it, which is good. Okay. Okay, cool. Cool, cool. I think this copy needs to be broken up better and formatted better so that it's easier to read. That's something that I would spend a little bit of time on. The offer is a little sparse. The bullets just aren't there at all. So if you're going to add bullets, definitely use them. And this is just not broken up enough for me to really understand. There's no second letter here. So what I mean by second letter is that if you're reading this letter quickly the way that I am, I want to be able to know what the gist of the letter is simply by seeing the headlines. So in order to do that, you've got to break up your copy with these subheads and these bolded statements and things like that so I can read the letter by skimming. That's really, really important in a sales letter. That's the feedback I have for you, Cisco. Format the letter so it's easy to read as a second letter. Tell believable stories, or if you're telling an unbelievable story, acknowledge that it's unbelievable and assure them that it really is true. Work out this subhead for sure, because this is a meaningless phrase, and potentially add a negative headline that captures their attention rather than a positive headline like this that may or may not capture their attention. That's my feedback on this piece. All right, Francisco. Jan Schroeder. Let's talk about Jan. And help the dog you love live a happier, healthier, longer life. Okay, like I said with this type of headline, that's sort of meaningless unless you give a specific reason for it, especially in a highly sophisticated marketplace. The second one, discover the shocking truth on how one single ingredient can stop your dog from excessive shedding, is very specific. So I would use that instead and delete the top one. It's what they do, yes. It can be normal. Came up with a handful of hair. Dry with lots of dander. Okay. Deciphering whether your pet's shedding is a health issue. I like that headline. This is good. Now I would still break it up so it's easier because you're brick texting me here pretty bad. I would run this through Flesh Kincaid to see what the reading level is. If it's above 5, you need to dumb it down. You need to break things up. You need to reduce the number of commas. You need to make the sentences easier to read and shorter. This is not very difficult. This is pretty difficult to read. So deciphering whether your pet's shedding is a health issue, I want to know very quickly. Like if your pet is just shedding normally and they do not, maybe if they have these symptoms or if this is happening, like ... bullet, then that's going to be relevant to someone reading this immediately, especially in the lead. Like this is the first thing they see. So discover the shocking ingredient, shocking truth, how one single ingredient can stop your dog from excessive shedding. And then this is your subhead down here. Then you need to be really bullet pointed and really clear on the stuff that you're writing about in here. And then you go into the ingredient itself and you bullet point out the ingredient, omega-3 acids, and you also, so in this particular case, you don't go over any specifics on how or on why the extraction process is better than other salmon oil, because there will be questions and objections like that, so I would bring that up. That's the feedback I have on here. use this as a headline, make this component much easier to read because I really like this as a headline or a subhead. I think it's very powerful and convincing if this area is very easy to read. And then once you go down here, you're going to want to make this all easier to read with better bullets, and you're going to want to compare and contrast fish oil against what you're currently offering, which is salmon oil. That's the feedback I have for this piece. Yeah. Does that make sense? Are you on live? Probably not. Nope. Okay. That's the feedback I have for this piece, Jan. That's the main thing. And also, don't brick text me. You're brick texting like crazy. Don't. Write it in shorter sentences that are easier to read, that are conversational. This does not read very conversationally. All right. Last one, Yongo Bongo. And this is the most interesting one, actually, that I've seen so far. The little-known embarrassing secret to why your dog eats poop and what to do about it. That's a very legit problem. I've had a dog that ate poop, and it was disgusting. So it's something that you just, you know, it's so gross to us as humans, and then you're writing a sales letter about it, and I'm curious. I'm seriously curious, because I don't know why they do it. I think it's just because they're crazy and dumb, but they're not. They're doing it for a reason. And, oh, the word swallow is so gross in this context. Was born to eat poop. And then you start teaching me about it. I read this before we got on here because you turned yours in last. But you start teaching me about it, which is actually kind of interesting. And then you bring up the nutrients very briefly, and then you start teaching me about the dogs. They experience the world through their mouth. That's actually very interesting as well. I'm learning something as I'm reading this here. Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't know that either. Let's see. So, the number one reason you'll find your dog eating poop is the lack of nutrients in his diet. That's fascinating to me, which I would not have taken that angle. So, if a person is having an issue with their dog eating poop, although, knowing what I know about dogs, I don't know if that is accurate. Are you on right now, Jason? Okay, so is that accurate? Like, can you verify that statement? The number one reason you'll find your dog eating poop is a lack of nutrients. Yes or no? Okay. I don't think it's true. And so I don't think it's true because I think the number one reason they eat poop is due to a territorial thing. They eat poop because it's usually other dogs' poop, and and poop is a form of marking their territory. It would, Laura. That's also another issue that I did want to bring up. But I'm not sure. I'm not an expert, but I think that's actually the number one reason is territory, not lack of nutrients. I do know, however, that mom dogs do eat their baby dog's poop. And Laura brings up a good point. This could alienate dog owners who've never had their dogs eat poop. I've only had one dog that ate poop. So I think that could alienate people who've never had their dog eat poop, but it is a big enough issue that there's courses out there about how to teach your dog not to eat poop, and there's products out there on, there's stuff that you can add to your dog's food that will make their poop not appetizing so that nobody eats it. And so it is a significant enough problem that I can consider there to be a marketplace for it, but it's possible that you're going to alienate people who've never had their dogs eat poop. But it's interesting, and I think that's captured my attention here because I don't see this a bunch, and so I'm going in and then so maybe this isn't entirely accurate, but the lack of nutrients things makes sense in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So especially in the manufacturing process, and you talk about it, you break the cycle, and you give them what they really need, which is their nutrients. So I get that. I actually really like that angle, even though it's a little gross in the beginning, but it captures my attention immediately and teaches me something, and then starts telling me about this, this angle. So use grizzly salmon oil a lot. I would not use the name continuously over and over and over again in the bullet points. I would just make the bullet points themselves more powerful, like punchy. Gary Benchavenga is very, very good at writing bullet points. So if you want to, have a master class on how to write bullet points specifically, go read some Gary Benchavenga copy. Fish breath. Rosemary extract, pleasant smell. Okay, cool. I like this piece overall. I think the only thing that I was going to mention about it was the slight inaccuracy, but overall I really like this piece, Jason. Yeah, I think it works. I think you've captured my attention. I think you taught me something about it, and I think you led me into the natural segue of lack of nutrients, and then you brought me into the how to give them the nutrients they need and potentially make them stop eating their poop, and that's going to lead into your product. So I think that's good. That's solid. Well done for a first draft. All right, and we are complete. Just over 2 hours this time. Thank you everyone who's been on live the entire time. Holy crap, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I tried to go as in order as I could. It messed up on me towards the end there, or towards the middle, where it just kept pulling up the documents instead of the order that I had them in. So I did call off the name before I started every single one. And I think Edie is going to go back through and timestamp everything, which I super appreciate, Edie. Thank you so much. I know you're not on here right now, but I know you will be. I'm going to get this recording uploaded to the YouTube and to the membership site tonight as quickly as possible. I'm going to do it right after this call. And I super appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If you have questions on your piece, go ahead and post them in the group. I don't think he has a book, Jason. I think he just has a website. He might have courses too. Michael PM me on that one. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll get it uploaded. Should be in order. Thank you, Edie, again. And everybody have a wonderful one. We will see you on Wednesday at noon for the Q&A on either your stuff, the modules, any of these assignments, the upcoming assignment, whatever you got to do. I will see you on Wednesday. Have a good one, guys.